Have you ever finally told someone no and then spent the next 3 hours wondering if you should call them back and change your answer? You said no for a perfectly good reason. You know you did not have the time. You know you were tired. You know you really don't want to do it. But somehow, after saying no, you're feeling bad. And before you know it, you're having a whole meeting in your head. Maybe I was selfish. Maybe I could probably have squeezed them in. And what if they are upset with me? And sometimes we become so uncomfortable with that feeling that we go right back and undo the boundary we just set. If you have ever done that, I want to talk to you today about it. Hi, I'm Jennifer Charleau, counseling psychologist, and this is the art and science of self-care. Welcome, welcome. Come in and have a seat, sit and let's chat. Because here we talk about the psychology behind the things we experience in everyday life. And we also look at practical ways we can work through them with faith as part of the foundation. And today we are talking about that guilt that comes when we say no. Because here's the big idea. I want you to remember that feeling guilty does not necessarily mean you have done something wrong. Feeling guilty or saying no and you're feeling bad, we usually tend to think that guilt is evidence. For example, I feel guilty, therefore I must have done something wrong. But emotions don't always work that way. Guilt can be appropriate if you have hurt somebody, if you have violated your own values, or if you have behaved badly. But guilt can also tell you, Jennifer, you need to fix that. That's useful or helpful guilt, right? But sometimes guilt can show up simply because you have done something that feels unfamiliar or uncomfortable. And that's where things become very interesting. If you are accustomed to being available, you are accustomed to helping others, you are accustomed to keeping everybody happy. That saying no can change the pattern. And you see, your brain does not necessarily respond with wonderful, Jennifer. You have established an healthy interpersonal boundary. No, not at all. It may respond, excuse me, what do you think you're doing here? People might be upset, and so a discomfort might develop. And that discomfort can feel similar to guilt. Sometimes it is a learned behavior. This is where behavioral psychology gives us something useful. Behaviors that bring some kind of reward tend to get repeated. And the reward doesn't have to be money or a prize, but approval can be a reward. Being needed can be a reward. Avoiding conflict can be a big reward. And even feelings of relief when everybody is pleased can also be a reward. So you then reinforce a behavior. So imagine that over time you have become the person who says, sure, no problem. Of course I'll handle it. Leave it to me. People are pleased. Conflict is avoided. You feel useful. Your brain learns then that saying yes keeps things comfortable, cool, calm. Then one Tuesday afternoon you decide, you know what? can't do it today. So, no. Now, somebody is indeed disappointed, or their voice might change, or they become quiet. And suddenly, every part of you want to make that discomfort disappear. So, what do? Actually, you know what? You think to yourself, I could probably fit them in. And immediately you feel that relief. That's important because now your brain has learned something else. If saying no feels uncomfortable, change it. Change it to a yes. And that uncomfortable feeling will automatically float away. And that's how a pattern can keep itself going. So, what can we do differently? And we are chatting here, we are having a conversation. The first thing is surprisingly simple. Don't answer immediately. If you are someone who automatically says yes, give yourself some space. Say, let me check and get back to you. Let me think about that. I'm not sure I can commit to that. Let me see. That little pause interrupts the automatic response. That second thing gives you an opportunity to reflect on what you are really capable of doing. So we're moving on, we're chatting now. The second thing to do is to ask yourself, did I actually do something wrong? Or am I simply uncomfortable because somebody didn't get what they wanted? Those are not the same thing. Someone being disappointed with your decision doesn't automatically make your decision wrong. And here's probably the hardest part. Let the discomfort be there. Just sit with it. Just let it be there. You don't have to immediately try to fix it. You can say, listen, I said no. I feel guilty. And I'm still going to keep that no because you know that decision was made on good grounds. That is actually part of changing the behavior. Instead of teaching yourself, when guilt comes up, give in. You're slowly learning, I can tolerate this feeling without abandoning my boundaries. And what a wonderful practice. So discomfort can become easier to tolerate. And this is where faith comes in for me. As a Christian, I also have to remember that loving people and pleasing people are not the same thing. Jesus demonstrated compassion, generosity, and service, but he also withdrew. He rested. He didn't respond to every demand in the way people expected. So I don't believe healthy boundaries contradict a life of love. Sometimes a loving answer is yes, and sometimes a wise answer, and loving too, is no. And sometimes the work is learning to tell the difference. So the next time you say no, and that guilty feelings comes rushing in, don't immediately assume, I should have said something else. I shouldn't have said that. Ask yourself, did I violate my values? Did I actually hurt anyone? Is there something I genuinely need to make right? If the answer is no, perhaps what you are experiencing isn't evidence that your boundary was wrong. Perhaps you are simply experiencing the difficulty or of dealing with a discomfort of doing something different and new. So you can let the discomfort pass without changing your answer. Because remember, feeling guilty does not necessarily mean something is wrong. Sometimes it means you're learning how to do things differently. So before we go, let's bring this together. We've talked about the fact that guilt isn't always evidence that you have done something wrong. Sometimes saying no feels uncomfortable simply because you're so used to saying yes. You are accustomed to being available. You are accustomed to keeping the peace. You're used to making sure that everybody else is okay. And when you begin changing that pattern, you may begin to feel uncomfortable. Sit a little bit with me. We are having a conversation. So you might feel uncomfortable for a while. But here's what I want you to practice. Pause. Before automatically saying yes, I want you to pause and ask yourself, have I actually done something wrong, or am I uncomfortable because I've set a boundary? And if the answer is no, I have not done anything wrong, then give yourself permission to let that uncomfortable feeling go. Let it go. Let it be there without immediately changing your answer. You do not have to become cold. I'm not telling you to become cold to everyone and say no to everything. You do not have to stop being generous. And you certainly don't have to stop caring about people. You can be loving and have boundaries. You can be loving and say no. You can be kind and say no. And sometimes taking care of yourself means accepting that somebody may be disappointed with your decision and trusting that you don't have to abandon yourself to make everyone else feel comfortable. So this week, if you are going to face, or this week, if you realize you're facing one of those moments, I want you to try something different. I want you to pause. I want you to think about what you generally have, the capacity to give at that time, and let your answer come from a place of wisdom rather than guilt. That's part of self-care. Taking care of yourself, giving yourself some grace is important. So, this week, you have some homework for me. Until next time, remember, we are about doing the best we can, and at times, doing the best you can and forget the rest. Take care now. Until next time.